I decided to surprise my wife at her office. She's the CEO. At the entrance, a sign read, "Authorized personnel only." When I told the guard I was the CEO's husband, he laughed and said, "Sir, I see your husband every day. There he is, coming out right now." So, I decided to play along. The security guard at Meridian Technologies actually laughed when I told him I was Lauren's husband. He shook his head like I just told him a bad joke. "Sir, I see her husband here every single day," he said. Then he pointed toward the glass entrance. "He's right there, actually." A man was walking through the lobby, heading in like he owned the place. He wore a charcoal gray Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than my first car. He looked to be in his early 40s, walked with confidence, and had an expensive watch flashing in the afternoon sunlight. He was the kind of guy you'd expect to see on the cover of Forbes, smiling like success came easy. "Mr. Sterling," the guard called out. "Your wife's still in her 3 o'clock meeting. Should wrap up in about 20 minutes. The man, Frank Sterling, according to the badge clipped to his jacket, gave a quick nod and headed toward the elevators. He never looked my way. I stood off to the side, holding a takeout bag from Osteria, Lauren's favorite Italian spot downtown. My heart wasn't racing exactly. It was worse than that. It kept stopping and starting, like an engine that couldn't quite catch. 28 years. That's how long Lauren and I had been married. And somehow, she had another husband, one everyone at work seemed to know about except me. Frank hit the elevator button, pulled out his phone, and started scrolling like nothing in the world was wrong. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to walk over there, to ask him who the hell he thought he was, calling himself my wife's husband. I wanted to cause a scene, demand answers, make sure everyone heard. But I didn't move. Something held me back. Maybe it was the way the guard had said it. So casual, so sure of himself. Like it was common knowledge. Like everyone already knew. Everyone but me. "You know what?" I said to the guard, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I think I'm in the wrong building. I'm actually looking for Gerald Pharmaceuticals, not Meridian Tech." The guard frowned. "But you just said you were Mrs. Sterling's husband." I'm a family friend," I said quickly. "Gerald's my name. Guess I got my wires crossed." I let out a fake laugh. "Long day." I set the takeout bag on the security desk. "Actually, could you make sure Lauren gets this? Just tell her Gerald dropped it off. Family friend." The guard shrugged. "Sure thing." I walked out before my legs could give out under me. Lauren and I had been married since 1996. We met when we were both 23, me fresh out of college with my accounting degree, her finishing up her MBA at Northwestern. She was sharp, driven, and always thinking 5 steps ahead. The kind of woman who made 5-year plans and actually followed through on them. I was the steady one, the practical guy. I handled the money, paid the bills, kept the house running, and made sure our retirement accounts were solid. Lauren used to tell me I was her foundation. She said she could take risks at work because she knew I kept everything stable at home. And she had taken risks, big ones. Director by 30, vice president at 35, then CEO of Meridian Technologies at 43. The company specialized in AI-driven logistics software, and she turned it from a struggling startup into a $200 million operation in just 8 years. I was proud of her, truly proud. I backed every late night, every business trip, every weekend she spent buried in spreadsheets instead of sitting across from me at dinner. That's what you do when you love someone. You support their dreams. We never had kids. Lauren never wanted them. She said they'd throw her career off track. I was disappointed at first, but eventually I made peace with it. Her career was her baby. At least, that's what I believed. Now I was sitting alone in my car in the Meridian Technologies parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what I'd just witnessed. Frank Sterling, Lauren's VP of operations. I'd met him once before, 2 years ago at a company holiday party. He was tall, charming, and easy to talk to. Lauren had introduced him as one of her rising stars and spent most of the night talking business with him while I stood around making small talk with the other spouses. I hadn't thought anything of it. Why would I have? I trusted my wife. But the guard had called him Mr. Sterling. Said he saw Lauren's husband every day. Not her boyfriend. Not a partner. Her husband. I didn't go home right away. I couldn't bring myself to face the house. The one I'd cleaned all afternoon. The one where I'd made Lauren's favorite lasagna for dinner. The same house where I'd planned to surprise her with Hamilton tickets next month for our anniversary. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and slid into a corner booth. I ordered a black coffee and let it sit untouched in front of me. At 6:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Lauren, working late again. Don't wait up. Love you." I stared at that message for a long time. Love you. Did she really? Or was I just the backup plan? The safety net? The guy who helped pay the mortgage while she lived an entirely different life? I typed out a dozen replies and deleted every one of them before settling on something simple. "Okay, there's lasagna in the fridge." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then came back. "You're the best. See you late tonight." I set my phone face down on the table and focused on breathing. Lauren got home at 11:23 p.m. I was in the living room pretending to read. In reality, I'd been staring at the same page for 3 hours. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag by the door. She looked worn out. Her hair was slightly messed up, and her lipstick had faded. "How was your day?" I asked. My voice sounded normal, which surprised me. Exhausting, she said. Back-to-back meetings all afternoon. Board presentation at 4. Then Frank and I had to go over the Q3 projections. She headed into the kitchen. You said there was lasagna? Yeah, it's in the fridge. I listened as she moved around. Microwave humming, fridge opening and closing. Familiar sounds. The sounds of my wife living in our house. Our house. At least, I thought it was. She came back with a plate of reheated lasagna and dropped into the armchair across from me. This is perfect. I'm starving. I actually stopped by your office today, I said, keeping my tone casual. Brought you lunch from Osteria. She paused for just a fraction of a second, fork hovering midair. Most people wouldn't have noticed it, but I'd been married to her for 28 years. I noticed everything. You did, she said. I didn't get anything. I gave it to Frank Sterling, I said. Figured he could pass it along. Oh, she took another bite, chewed, swallowed. He didn't mention it. Probably got lost in the shuffle. Busy day, you know. She was lying. Smoothly. Perfectly. No cracks at all. How is Frank? I asked. She smiled. Great guy. Best VP I've ever worked with. He really understands the vision. We're pretty much in sync on everything. In sync. That's good, I said. Yeah, I said. It's important to have a solid working relationship. Absolutely, she replied, smiling at me. It was the same smile I'd fallen for 28 years ago, the one that used to make me feel like everything was going to be okay. Thanks for trying to bring me lunch, she added. That was really sweet. Anytime, I said. We sat there for a while after that. Her finishing her lasagna, me pretending to read, looking like a normal married couple winding down on a Tuesday night. Except nothing about it was normal anymore. I waited until she fell asleep. Lauren had always been a deep sleeper. Years of surviving on caffeine, stress, and adrenaline had trained her body to shut down completely once she finally stopped moving. By midnight, she was out cold. I went into her study. The door was never locked. Why would it be? I was her husband. She trusted me. Her laptop sat closed on the desk, but it wasn't password locked. I knew the password anyway. I had for years. It was our wedding date, 061596. When I opened the laptop, my hands trembled just a little. I felt like a thief in my own house. Her email was already open. Thousands of messages stacked one after another. I didn't even know where to begin. So I started with her calendar. At first glance, everything looked normal. Meetings, board calls, conferences. The usual. Then I started noticing patterns. Dinner with F, 7 p.m. Il Pasto. That entry was from 2 weeks earlier. Il Pasto was a romantic Italian restaurant in the West Loop. Candlelit tables. Live piano music. Not exactly the place you take your VP for a work dinner. Then there was a weekend retreat at the Grand Geneva Resort from last month. Lauren had told me it was a women's leadership conference. I pulled up the resort's website. $450 a night for the suites. I checked her credit card statements and found the charge. 2 rooms booked on the corporate card. Then I looked closer. 1 room had been canceled. 1 room. 2 people. My stomach sank. I kept digging. More dinners. More trips. A pattern stretching back almost 3 years. Everything carefully labeled. Business meals, corporate retreats, team building events. All technically defensible. Except for one thing. Frank's name was on every single one. I closed the laptop and walked back to the bedroom. I stood in the doorway and watched Lauren sleep. She looked peaceful, innocent, like someone who had never done anything wrong. I had trusted her completely, never questioned her, never doubted her, and she had been lying to me for 3 years. The next morning, I called in sick to work. It was the first time I'd done that in 6 years. I was a senior accountant at Monroe and Associates, a mid-sized firm downtown. It was a good job, steady, reliable, and unremarkable. The kind of career that pays the bills but doesn't impress anyone at a dinner party. Lauren made 3 times what I did. I'd never resented that. Her success was our success. Or at least, I thought it was. After she left for work, kissing my forehead and telling me to feel better, I started searching for real answers. I went through every drawer in her study, every file cabinet, every box in the closet. And then, tucked into the back of her jewelry drawer, hidden under a mess of costume necklaces she never wore, I found it. A key. Just a single silver apartment key. No label. But attached to it was a keychain with an address. Harborview Apartments. Unit 214. Harborview was a high-end building in River North. I'd driven past it plenty of times. 30 stories. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place where even a studio cost at least $2,500 a month. I grabbed the key and drove straight there. In the parking garage, each space was marked with a unit number. Space 214 had a black Mercedes GLE parked in it. Frank Sterling's car. I recognized it instantly from the company lot. My hands were shaking as I took the elevator up to the 2nd floor. I found Unit 214. The key slid in smoothly. The door opened. Inside was a fully furnished apartment. Not a short-term rental. A real home. Hardwood floors. Modern furniture. Fresh flowers sitting on the coffee table. The air smelled like Lauren's perfume, Chanel No. 5. The expensive bottle she only used for special occasions. Photos lined the mantel. Lauren and Frank at the beach. At a restaurant. On a hiking trail. In every single picture, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. I wandered through the apartment in a daze. The kitchen had 2 sets of dishes, 2 coffee mugs on the counter, his and hers. The bedroom nearly made me sick. A king-sized bed dressed in expensive linens. Lauren's clothes hanging in the closet right beside Frank's suits. Her shoes neatly lined up next to his, like they'd been sharing the space for years. Like they were married. On the dresser, I found a folder labeled Future Plans, written in Lauren's unmistakable handwriting. I opened it. Inside were real estate listings, homes in Evanston, Oak Park, Wilmette. Prices ranging from $800,000 to over $2 million. Notes were scribbled in the margins, good schools nearby, close to Frank's parents. Love the kitchen. There were travel brochures too, Santorini, Tokyo, New Zealand. Honeymoon destinations. And underneath all of that were legal documents. Divorce consultation summaries. Dated 18 months ago. Lauren had met with 3 different divorce attorneys, clearly shopping for the best option. The notes were cold and clinical. Frame as irreconcilable differences. Cite Gerald's lack of ambition and emotional distance. Document instances of failure to support career growth. She had been building a case against me. Page after page listed examples. Times I'd supposedly undermined her by asking her to skip work events. Times I'd been emotionally unavailable because I didn't want to talk about corporate politics over dinner. Times I'd shown lack of ambition by being satisfied with my accounting career. Every normal point of marital tension had been rewritten as proof that I wasn't good enough. The most recent note was dated 3 weeks ago. Timeline. File for divorce by January 2025. Finalized by June. Wedding with F by Christmas 2025. She had planned everything. My replacement was already living with her part-time. Their future house was already chosen. I was just the obstacle standing in the way. I took photos of everything. Every document. Every page. Every picture. Then I sat down on their couch, in their apartment, inside their secret life, and tried to understand that my 28-year marriage had been a lie for at least 3 years. Eventually, I went back to my car and started driving. No destination. I just drove. At 3:47 p.m. my phone rang. Lauren. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 4:15. Then again at 4:32. Then she texted. Where are you? Are you feeling better? I didn't answer. Around 6 p.m., I pulled into a random parking lot and finally listened to her voicemails. Hey, honey, just checking in, she said in the first one. Hope you're feeling better. Call me when you get this. The next message sounded more tense. Gerald, I'm starting to worry. You're not answering. Are you okay? By the third one, she sounded close to panicking. Seriously, where are you? I'm about to start calling hospitals. Please call me back. The concern in her voice sounded real, convincing, almost heartbreaking. She was good, really good. I called her back. Oh, thank God, she said the second she answered. Where have you been? I was so worried. I just drove around for a while, I told her. Needed to clear my head. I'm fine. You scared me, she said. Are you coming home? Home. The word almost made me laugh. Yeah, I said. I'll be there soon. Good. I'm leaving work early. I'll grab Thai food on the way, your favorite. My favorite. She still remembered that. Still paid attention to the small details. Still played the part perfectly. Sounds good, I said. Love you, she added. Yeah, I replied. Love you too. I hung up before she could hear my voice crack. That night, we ate Thai food at our dining room table. Lauren talked about her day, some client emergency, a difficult board member, the usual corporate chaos. I nodded at the right moments, said the right supportive things, played my role as the dependable husband. All the while knowing that in a matter of months, she planned to divorce me and marry Frank Sterling. After dinner, she suggested we watch a movie. We settled onto the couch, her head resting on my shoulder like it had 1,000 times before. Except now, I could smell her perfume, the expensive one, and I knew she'd been in that apartment earlier that day, living her other life with her other husband. Partway through the movie, during a quiet scene, she spoke. Gerald? Yeah. Are we okay? She asked. You seem distant. Distant. That word again. The same word from her notes. One of the reasons she'd listed against me. I'm fine, I said. Just still not feeling great. Okay, she said softly, squeezing my hand. Let me know if you need anything. I will. We finished the movie and went to bed. She fell asleep almost instantly, curled onto her side. I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling and planning my next move. The next day, I called in sick again. Lauren left for work at 7:15 a.m., kissed my forehead, and told me to rest. The second the door closed behind her, I went straight back to her study. I'd been an accountant for 22 years. Finding financial irregularities was literally my job. And now that I knew what I was looking for, the pattern jumped out immediately. Our joint checking account showed regular deposits from both of us. My paycheck, about $6,200 a month after taxes. Lauren's, roughly $11,000 after taxes. Our monthly expenses, including the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and insurance, averaged around $8,500. We should have been saving close to $8,700 every month. Over 3 years, that should have added up to more than $300,000. Our savings account held $47,000. So where had the other $250,000 gone? I pulled up Lauren's personal credit card, The one she claimed was strictly for business expenses that got reimbursed. The answer was right there. Harbor View Apartments, $3,200 a month. 3 years. Over $115,000. Furniture purchases, West Elm, Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, $24,000. Travel expenses, $31,000 to luxury destinations. Dining, hundreds of charges at high-end restaurants. She'd been financing her entire secret life with our joint money. With my money. While I'd been eating leftovers and driving a 10-year-old Honda Civic, she'd been playing house with Frank Sterling in a $3,200 a month apartment using money I'd earned. I documented everything. Downloaded 3 years of bank statements, credit card records, investment transfers. I left nothing out. Then I turned my attention to Meridian Technologies' corporate filings. This was where my background really mattered. I knew how to read financial statements. I knew how to spot patterns that didn't belong. And once I started looking, the story became clear and ugly. Lauren had been quietly restructuring the company without proper board approval. She'd shifted resources into Frank Sterling's department, handed him control of key accounts, and positioned him for a promotion to COO, a role that didn't even officially exist yet. She was building him a golden ladder to the top while casting herself as the visionary behind it all. But she'd done it by redirecting company funds without authorization, by making financial decisions that benefited her personal relationship instead of the shareholders. That wasn't just unethical. That was corporate misconduct, possibly fraud. I took screenshots of everything, organized the evidence into folders, built a detailed timeline. Then I made a call. Richard Morrison. Richard Morrison was the chairman of Meridian Technologies board. I'd met him twice at company events. Retired hedge fund manager. Late 60s. Sharp as a tack. Gerald Hartman, I said when he answered. Lauren's husband. We met at the holiday party a couple years ago. Of course, he said. How are you? Is Lauren all right? She's fine, I said. But I'm calling about some serious concerns involving the company. There was a pause. What kind of concerns? The kind that involve unauthorized restructuring and misuse of corporate resources, I said. Do you have time to meet today? Another pause. Longer this time. I can be at your place in 2 hours, he said. I work from home. I'll text you the address. Richard Morrison arrived right at 2 p.m. Tall, silver-haired, sharp-looking, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. I offered him coffee. He accepted. We sat in my living room, the same room where Lauren and I had watched movies, celebrated anniversaries, and built what I thought was a life together. A room that now felt like nothing more than a prop in her double life. Show me what you've got, Richard said. I opened my laptop and walked him through everything. The apartment, the photos, the divorce planning documents, the financial manipulation inside the company. With every new detail, his expression darkened. Jesus Christ, he muttered when I showed him the corporate financials. She's been redirecting capital expenditure budgets without board approval, and it's all benefiting Frank Sterling's division. Exactly, I said. Why would she do that? I pulled up the photos from the apartment. Richard's jaw tightened. They're having an affair, he said. More than that, I replied. They're living together part-time. She's planning to divorce me and marry him, and she's been positioning him to take over the company. Richard leaned back slowly. That, he said, is a massive conflict of interest. She has a fiduciary duty, Richard said, shaking his head. To the board. To the shareholders. He stopped talking and ran a hand through his hair like he needed a second to steady himself. Do you have copies of all this? I do, I said. I handed him a USB drive. Bank records, corporate filings, photos, timelines. Everything's on there. He took it carefully. I need to call an emergency board meeting. I figured. He stood up and looked at me. Gerald, I'm truly sorry for what she's done to you personally. But I also need to thank you. If this had gone on much longer, the damage to the company could have been catastrophic. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said. That wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely a lie either. I'm doing it because it's the truth, and I'm done pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. Richard shook my hand. I'll be in touch. Lauren came home at 6:15 p.m., earlier than usual. I was in the kitchen making a simple chicken stir-fry. The second she walked through the door, I knew Richard had already called that emergency meeting. You son of a bitch, she snapped. Her voice was shaking. You called Richard Morrison. My own husband is trying to destroy my career. I kept stirring the vegetables. I didn't even turn around. I shared information the board had a right to see. That's not just information, she shouted. You showed him private photos. You went through my personal files. Your personal files, I said calmly, stored in our shared home. And your personal life was funded with money from our joint bank account. She grabbed my arm and spun me around. This is different. This is my professional reputation. And sleeping with your VP while restructuring the company to benefit him personally, I said, is professional misconduct. Her face drained of color. What do you want? She asked quietly. Money? The house. What? I don't want anything from you, Lauren, I said. You put this in motion 3 years ago. I'm just refusing to keep playing the fool while you carry out your plan. What plan? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos, the apartment, her face in every frame, the folder labeled future plans. This plan, I said. The one where you divorce me by January, marry Frank by Christmas, and move into your dream house in Evanston. She dropped heavily into a kitchen chair. How did you? I found the key to your other life. She covered her face. Gerald, 28 years. Yeah, I said quietly. 28 years. I supported every decision you made. Every late night. Every trip. Every sacrifice. Because I loved you. Because I thought we were building something together. We were. No, I cut in. You were building an exit strategy. And I was paying for it. She started crying then. Real tears. Not calculated ones. I'm sorry, she said. I never meant for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? I asked. Were you going to tell me before or after you filed for divorce? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I turned off the stove and grabbed my keys. Where are you going? She asked. A hotel. I'll have divorce papers drawn up by Monday. Wait. There's nothing left to say. I said. You made your choice years ago. I'm just catching up. I filed for divorce that Monday. I hired Jennifer Kowalski, a family law attorney with 23 years of experience. She reviewed the evidence and let out a low whistle. This is one of the clearest cases of marital misconduct I've ever seen, she said. The secret apartment, the financial deception, the documented timeline of her exit strategy. You're going to come out very well in this divorce. I don't care about winning, I said. I just want out. You should care, she replied. She used marital funds to support an affair. That's financial infidelity, and Illinois law takes it seriously. That same afternoon, the board held their emergency meeting. I wasn't there, but Richard called me at 5:47 p.m. Frank Sterling has been terminated effective immediately, he said. Lauren's been placed on administrative probation. Her authority has been severely restricted pending a full investigation, and the restructuring is being reversed. We've hired a forensic accountant to conduct a complete audit. If we determine she violated fiduciary duty or committed fraud, she could face criminal charges, not just termination. He paused. She built a house of cards, Gerald. You just knocked it down. Lauren called me that night. I was sitting in a Marriott near O'Hare, eating Chinese takeout and watching ESPN. You destroyed everything, she cried. Frank lost his job. The board is investigating me. My career is over. How could you do this? How could I? My voice was ice cold. You spent 3 years planning my replacement. You stole $250,000 from our joint account to fund your affair. You committed corporate fraud to benefit your lover. And you're asking how I could do this? I was going to tell you. When I cut in, after you filed for divorce, after you married Frank by Christmas like you planned? Silence. You knew, she whispered. I know everything, Lauren. The apartment, the lawyers, the timeline, the real estate listings, all of it. Please, she said, her voice breaking. We can fix this. I'll end things with Frank. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything. Frank already lost his job because of you, I said. And now you want to abandon him too? At least be consistent in who you betray. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. You want to talk about fair? You spent 28 years earning my trust just so you could execute the perfect betrayal. You documented every argument as evidence against me. You built a legal case while I cooked dinners, did laundry, and supported your career. I loved you. No, I said. You loved what I provided, stability, financial security, a foundation you could stand on while you built your empire. The second you found someone who fit your life better, you started planning to trade me in. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And the worst part? You were going to make me the villain. Those notes about my lack of ambition, my emotional distance. You were going to divorce me and make it my fault. She was sobbing now. Please, Gerald. 28 years. That has to mean something. It did, I said. Past tense. You killed it the moment you got the key to apartment 214. I hung up. She called 6 more times. I blocked her number. The divorce took 4 months. Lauren fought at first, but Jennifer had been right. The evidence was overwhelming. I kept the house. She kept her car and her damaged reputation. The board's investigation ultimately concluded that Lauren had violated her fiduciary duty by restructuring the company to benefit her personal relationship. Lauren was forced to resign in March of 2025. There was no golden parachute waiting for her, no generous severance package, no quiet landing somewhere else. One day she was CEO, and the next day she was simply gone. Frank Sterling tried to fight it. He filed a lawsuit against both Lauren and Meridian Technologies, claiming wrongful termination. It didn't go anywhere. Turns out having an affair with your CEO and benefiting from unauthorized corporate restructuring is a perfectly valid reason to be fired. The last I heard, they broke up about 3 months after everything collapsed. Frank blamed Lauren for destroying his career. Lauren blamed Frank for not being worth the sacrifice. Neither of them took responsibility for their own choices. I sold the house in June. There were too many memories in those walls. Too many ghosts. I bought a condo in Lakeview instead. Smaller. Simpler. Mine. I started dating again in August. Nothing serious. Just dipping my toe back in, figuring out how to trust people again. It's slow going. My therapist, Dr. Sarah Chun, a clinical psychologist with 18 years of experience, Says that's normal. She calls it betrayal trauma. Says healing takes time, and that rushing it only makes things worse. So I don't rush anymore. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One truth at a time. I ran into Lauren once, about 8 months after the divorce was finalized. She was at Whole Foods, standing in front of the organic vegetables. She'd lost weight and looked exhausted. Our eyes met, and she froze. I nodded and kept walking. She didn't follow me. For a moment, I wondered if I should feel sorry for her. She'd lost everything. Her career, her relationship, her reputation. Then I remembered apartment 214. The folder labeled future plans. The cold, calculated notes she'd written about building a case against me. And just like that, the sympathy disappeared. What I felt instead was freedom. 2 years after everything blew up, I got a message on LinkedIn from Frank Sterling. He wrote, "I know you have no reason to talk to me, but I wanted to apologize. I knew she was married. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I told myself the marriage was already over, that we were in love, that it justified everything. It didn't. You deserve better. So did everyone at Meridian. I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I closed it without replying. Some apologies come too late to matter. Some betrayals don't earn forgiveness. And sometimes the most powerful response to someone who helped wreck your life is silence. People ask me now and then if I regret how I handled things. If I should have confronted Lauren privately. If I should have given her a chance to explain. The answer is no. She had 3 years to explain. 3 years to tell the truth. 3 years to choose our marriage over her affair. She chose Frank. She chose the apartment. She chose the future she was building without me. All I did was make sure everyone else knew what she'd chosen too. 3 years after the divorce, I'm sitting in my condo on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading the news. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my girlfriend, Amy. I met her at a bookstore. She knows my entire history and chose me anyway. Brunch at 11 o'clock? I'm thinking that French place you love. I smile and text back. Perfect. See you there. I set my phone down and look out the window at Lake Michigan. The water's gray today, rough from the wind. Behind me, my home is quiet. Small. Honest. No secret apartments. No hidden lives. No carefully constructed lies. Just the truth. Simple. Painful. Free. And you know what? That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.